Michigan beat MSU last week, and the Spartans are unsurprisingly unhinged. Let's dig deeper right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday. We're back in doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Thank you to all of our everydayers who watch or listen to the show every single day. Also, big thank you for making us your first listen. First, we're going to get into Friday's win over MSU and the entirely predictable aftermath. Then, Kyle Whittingham brought over a tradition from Utah that could end up paying some dividends as soon as this year. And finally, Michigan made a too early CFP list. What might that mean? We're going to get into that as well. Apologies straight away. I'm sure you can hear it in my voice if you're listening. If you're seeing, you're probably like questioning my wardrobe choices usually is a thing. Listen, since Friday, I've been sick. So the question always is, Isaiah, why do you get sick a lot of the time? Like, I haven't had like a cold flu type scenario in a year. So I'm kind of due. So here we are. But if you want to question my shirt choices and all of that stuff, listen, I'm just trying to be comfortable here. So let's get that out of the way, because the comments always seem to go with wardrobe and or you sound weird. Well, that's predictable. Let's get into, so Michigan beat MSU on Friday night in East Lansing. That's not what I had predicted. And certainly in the first half, obviously it looked great, jumping out to an 18-point lead. Michigan still didn't look like incredible while doing so, but the defense really clamped down. And I mean, you know what happened after that. 16-point halftime lead ends up being MSU comes back, actually takes a 2-point lead. That's the most that they were able to get. Michigan finds a way to come back, wins by 12 points, 83 to 71 rather. And it was kind of a nuts game, but like that's not what we're here to talk about, because we were several days past that at this point. What we're here to talk about is the entirely predictable MSU crash out that has happened in the aftermath. It has been absolutely insane to witness. I've not been online that much, but every time I go online, I'm just seeing more and more of like, ultimately, like what it is. It's you see Kalel Mullings just needs to come out and again and say some people got to learn how to lose, because that's what it is really. Like, from the daily MSUs and all these other Spartan fan accounts that they talked a big game, right? It was very much a wait until basketball season, and then basketball season comes, and now it's not only is it a foregone conclusion that they'll win in Ann Arbor, but Michigan's cheating, right? Like, that's just become such a go-to for them. It cannot be anything but, right? And what that is a cognitive dissonance, because they have convinced themselves that all is right in the world. Like, I want to read you a text that I wrote to, I sent it to a couple of people. I sent it to Steve. I sent it to my guy, Josiah, and I sent it to Clayton. I sent this on Saturday afternoon while I was dying to death, but I still think it's funny. I said, MSU was just trying to win so that they could donate the profits to a puppy shelter that is working to cure cancer. But Dusty May and Michigan basketball kept on spreading. I'm not going to continue that part, but they kept on, I will. We kept on spreading super AIDS all over Breslin, and all of Izzo's yelling was to try to get them to stop. I mean, that's like the mentality that I don't mean MAC in terms of like the conference. I mean MAC from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I've been saying that's what MSU is for years now. They cannot handle the idea listen, they've been superior in basketball for the most part, right? Like, yes, Michigan won the Big Ten tournament last year. MSU had won 4 in a row though before that, right? Like, MSU has been at the very least, more stable program in recent history. Even when Michigan has kind of come up and been better for a couple of years, MSU almost always reclaims it. Okay. So they are unhinged when and this is where like I just really wish that we could get back to some degree of sportsmanship. And this is like what I was saying to some Ohio State people before the game this year. I'm talking the football game. I was talking to Jeremy Birmingham and Adam King. After the game, I had messaged a couple Ohio State media people and that I know are more fans than media, and said like, hey, congrats. Like, I know you've been like yearning for this. So like, congrats. Like, I just wish we could get back to some of that instead of like this essentially idea that everyone is the worst actor in the world type of mentality. Now, I say that there are times when are nefarious things going on. It's not happening here, but there are times. And even so, even when there are nefarious things, like the things that happen on the field, right? Like still matter on the court, still matter. So like this, like, oh, Dusty did it with transfers. Like transfer portal is legal, my guys. Like you don't have to like come up with some insane like rubric that accounts only for you in order to like, Izzo develops guys. Dusty went and tampered and brought guys in and blah, blah, blah. And it's all evil and stuff like that. Like, number one, the transfer portal's legal. Number two, Michigan has the same amount of transfers as you have ultimately. You're trying to come up with like a purity test to try to devalue something that honestly should be valuable, even if you are an MSU fan, because it should hurt. But you should be able to look in and say, like, this hurts instead of trying to mask the symptoms, right? It's kind of like, yes, I'm trying to mask my cold symptoms so that I can operate. So like my sore throat isn't like completely unbearable. But like, I'm not going to take like a bunch of Ricola and Advil and then pretend like that didn't happen. And honestly, like I was better than ever before any of that. And yet like, the medicine that you take is supposed to alleviate the symptoms, but it's still revelatory that there are symptoms to begin with. And I think that MSU people are just deal in reality instead of like, every single little thing. Now I love I agree with Dusty May's thing because Jeremy Fears was kind of unhinged out there. Right. And like there was one team that was constantly getting flagrant fouls and one that wasn't. And the one that was happened to be the home team. And so for Izzo to sit there and complain about the officiating, like that's like his go-to, right? Like they never lost ever. Then again, some people have to learn how to lose. But I still love where it's like, oh, if Dusty's got a problem, he can call me. But yet, like he already said that Izzo that he had to address it with some of the play with Jeremy Fears. So it's like, okay, but shouldn't you be calling him then? Because if you had to address it with a player, why would Dusty have to call you? So it's absurd. And listen, I'm not an Izzo hater the way a lot of people are. I'm not. Number one, I don't care that much. But number two, like, he's done a lot of winning in East Lansing. There are certainly things that I don't agree with, but by and large, it's been, I don't want to say clean because that's not necessarily right either, but it's not like the dumpster fire that is like a lot of other programs across the country. Okay. It could be worse. That's not a very high bar to clear, but that's what that is. So anyway, let's switch gears to football. That's all I got to say on that. Actually, I could go longer. I never know when I'm not feeling well because it's like, usually I'm like, okay, how long was that? Did I talk for 20 minutes? And I look down, 2. I talked for 2 minutes. I guess I missed y'all, but we're going to move into football. I want to talk about this, spring captains and leadership council. I want to get into that here in just a moment. But before we do, this is Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. Just like when Michigan beat MSU last week, Elliot Cadeau came in and he made the clutch plays to put the Wolverines ahead for good. Without Yaxel, Lendeborg's steady play, Cadeau's late game clutch plays, the Wolverines would have not prevailed in East Lansing. Cadeau's 3 along with Will Tschetter's 3 helped put Michigan up for good, rightfully ahead in the in-state rivalry. These remind us of what it really takes takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and I never quit. And they could have quit when they went down. We put that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. All right, you know what? One thing that didn't stop. Might have slowed a bit, but didn't stop. While I might not have been here with you on camera and on the audio and all of that, I was still in the Everydayers Club, member Discord. And I mean, I didn't have any new news to share. I was in bed dying to death, but I was still present. I was still there. I was still talking, like letting people know what's going on. People asking questions and me, giving what answers I had and whatever. And guess what? You could be a part of that. You get the ad free with the Everydayers Club. That's huge. But the Discord is where it's really at. And it's $5 a month or $50 a year. And listen, spring ball's coming up in like a month. You're going to want to hear more of the unfiltered. And that's where you're going to get it, is behind that paywall where anything goes. Well, maybe not anything goes, but I'll say a lot more than I'm supposed to. So go to LockedOnWolverines.supercast.com or check the show notes to learn more about that. Join that. All right. So yesterday there was an announcement from Michigan, and it was a little bit of a surprise. And Kyle Whittingham brought this from what he did at Utah. I'm going to read the press release and then we'll react here. University of Michigan, Jay Ira and Nikki Harris family head coach Kyle Whittingham announced on Monday the players who will lead the 2026 Wolverines football program as spring captains and members of the Leadership Council. The players for Team 147 voted for both spring honors. The captains and Leadership Council for the 2026 season will be elected during fall camp. Junior running back Jordan Marshall and sophomore quarterback Bryce Underwood were voted as the offensive captains, and fifth-year senior safety Rod Moore and senior defensive tackle Trey Pierce were selected as the defensive captains. In addition to the spring captains, the players voted for 11 players who would make up the team's leadership council. Following is an alphabetical list of players who received selection. Nico Andrighetto, Zeke Berry, Cameron Brandt, Mason Curtis, Eno Etta, Blake Frazier, Jake Guardera, Jair Hill, Andrew Marsh, Zach Marshall, Andrew Sprague. The Wolverines will begin spring practice on Tuesday, March 17th. The 15 practice sessions will conclude with the annual spring game presented by Original Roofing Company on Saturday, April 18th. More details will follow as they are finalized. So that's interesting. So there's a lot of interesting here. I think it's great to formalize something like this because, there was a group of players who had been kind of like leadership type people. They would call team meetings and stuff. We'd heard a lot about that type of thing in 2021 forward, right? Like Aiden Hutchinson, Cade McNamara, Mikey Sainris still. And that continued. But I think it's good to have like a scenario here where you've got a bunch of guys that are looked on as team leaders that can do this. And it's good for multiple reasons, especially the 11. I mean, actually the 4 and the 11, because here's what it does. It reminds me of, so when I was in a little bit of career purgatory, and this is actually not a positive, what I'm about to say, but I will say how it impacted me positively. When I was in career purgatory, so I had moved home from Los Angeles in 2012. I had gotten laid off from United Talent Agency on purpose. I demoted myself from the agent trainee path. I don't know why I have to tell you this. I guess it's just, I have to in my own head. And because I wanted to work at a studio. And the problem was I was in talent, motion picture talent, working with actors in film instead of being in the lit side, which is how you really get into a studio and become more of a development person. So I kept on being runner up. And then ultimately I came home from the holidays and was like, I don't want to be in LA anymore. I'm over it. I just recognized like life would be better if I was home and doing something with University of Michigan. That was my whole thing. And I couldn't get anything, right? Like, because even though I have a Michigan degree, having a film degree really did little for me. So I ended up working at a Bonefish Grill in Novi for a couple of years. while I was trying to like kind of sort myself out. Do I want to move back to LA and chase that? What can I do if I try to do the Michigan thing, whatever. And so I was a server and bartender there. And I remember like we had a new owner after like a couple months of me being there. And like he did something like this. He put out a list like, these are the restaurant leaders. And he put out a list and I wasn't on it. And I was really upset about that, right? Because number one, my ego, like already was something to contend with, right? For at least internally. But secondly, like I always want to be one of the best. And I felt like at that point I already was. And I even went to the owner and said, what gives? Why was I not on this list? Because he was saying like, yo, if you need something, like go to one of these people. And I'm like, what the heck, man? And he's like, listen, you lead actually the restaurant in sales, but there's a couple other things like I want to see you improve upon. And now he didn't like reprise this list moving forward. It wasn't like a later type of thing, but I did advance while I was there to being a head wait, which is like a thing in restaurants, right? So I think that with that, you could see where, some of the guys who maybe aren't on this list could look at it and say, I want to be on that list, right? They already desire being team captains, but like there's another, like, I don't want to say barrier for entry, but another place where they can kind of get that. And you can do that in spring. And I think that's also part of it too. If like, hey, you have machinations on being a team captain. Well, guess what? This is who the players are voting on. Now, what I think is really interesting here too is like Nico Andrighetto is a former walk-on. The rest of the names that are people that everyone's really heard. But when you look at this list, Zeke Berry, transfer portal came back. Anoeta, transfer portal came back. Jake Guarnera, transfer portal came back. Andrew Sprague, transfer portal came back. Jair Hill is a really interesting name to be on there. That just shows you that it sounds like he's growing up a bit. So you love to see that. And I think that it's great too to have your quarterback being named that because number one, you don't want to end up being a topic conversation on Mike Valeni, right? Because he granted, he probably will be anyway, no matter what happens. I'm teasing on that because everyone can remember JJ wasn't named a captain. All this because he was a junior and they only named seniors, right? Like, I think it creates another level of competition that I think, will get guys to be that much more serious. Like, okay, I wasn't on this list. I wasn't a spring captain. I wasn't voted by my teammates. What can I do to be that type of player? Plus just having guys holding guys accountable. That's massive. That's always a good thing. So I like to see that this got carried over and it will be interesting to see what kind of materializes from that. But now we're a month and a half away from spring ball, and that's exciting. That's good to know. All right, that's all I have on that for the moment, mostly because I'm trying to keep from coughing here. But we're going to move on, and we're going to talk a little bit about what it takes to find a job. But we're going to do that right now. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who could actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping that the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and location. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who can help. I'd want someone with real experience who can jump right in. That's what I like about Indeed. You can get specific and target exactly what you need. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen by candidates who are actually a fit. And here's the stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you are hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job, get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. All right, let's finish out talking about CBS Sports put out a too early 12-team bracket for 2026. my former colleague and associate and friend, Brad Crawford, who tends to be a Michiganator. Let's just be honest. He tends to be a Michiganator. I love Brad, but he tends to be a bit of a Michiganator. He put out the top 12 in his estimation, and Michigan makes the cut at 9-3. I mean, the schedule's brutal. We've talked about the schedule. It's beyond brutal. It's very difficult. Here's what he said about Michigan at number 12. An early season win over Oklahoma comes in clutch for first-year Michigan head coach Kyle Whittingham, who has more assets with the Wolverines than he ever possessed at Utah. Whittingham often gets the most out of his roster. With enhanced resources, he should quickly push Michigan back in the playoff conversation. In this scenario, as the 10 seed, the Wolverines would become the playoff's second ever 3-loss team, but the first not to reach their league title game to get in. The losses: Oregon, Indiana, and Ohio State. He has Michigan facing Texas, and then the winner of that game, Texas Tech, and the winner of that game faces Indiana. I think that is absolutely fair because, like I said, this is a difficult schedule. I think it's hard to sit there and say Michigan's going to win all 8 home games. It's possible. Indiana, like every time you have to change your quarterback, even if you're getting a seasoned guy, Josh Hoover from TCU. I mean, with Kurt Cignetti, it's pretty clear, like, yeah, you can get the job done, but you never know. You never know when you get a new quarterback, if the fit's going to be right, if everything's going to go the way you hope, if there's not going to be some injuries, things of that nature, right? Like, you just don't know. But I think it's fair to have the road losses at this juncture. It wouldn't surprise me if Michigan beat Ohio State this year, but it would maybe surprise me if they beat Oregon. I think the timing of it, helps a little bit because it's not like they'll really know what it's going to take. And I think Whittingham has shown he can travel and win. But at the same time, I mean, like, those are 2 really tough road games. And Indiana, Penn State, Oklahoma, all of those are really tough. And Oklahoma is going to be tough in general just because it's like they bring back John Mateer. Like, speaking of quarterbacks, not necessarily fully like looked great in the first couple of weeks before he broke his thumb, and then it didn't really stay the same, right? So interesting that, but I think that speaks a lot to like what he talked about with Whittingham is like Michigan's being taken seriously in a way right now that maybe it hadn't been before. And like before, a lot of it was like just Jim Harbaugh hatred, like irrational Jim Harbaugh hatred, right? And that started pretty much right away, even going like, what was it, 10-2, or 10-3 in season 1. Like, people didn't look at that and say like, oh, we should take this seriously, because I remember reading all of the columns, saying like getting this team bowl eligible would be a success. And then like it does that like easily. And everyone's like, nevertheless, right? So I think that it's a little bit different with Whittingham because people take him a little bit more seriously. Obviously, Sharon wasn't taken that seriously, even with wins over Ohio State and Alabama in year 1. And I think we can all kind of retroactively agree with that. But I think that I think that it's good at least to see that people recognize it. But guess what? They play games not on paper. They play games on the field. I still am going to be, I'll believe it when I see it. Week 2 is going to tell us a lot. Actually, week 1 will, because if we just at least see Michigan go out against UTEP and just demolish them, then like that's already a big change compared to what we've seen from the Sherrod Moore era. So I think that is in and of itself an interesting thing. So, I think it's cool to just see Michigan on lists like this again, which is kind of sad considering we're only a couple of years removed from a national championship. But nonetheless, I think it's kind of tells you the respect that this coaching staff already has from people who are looking at it. And you know what? Like, it would be good just to get some good publicity, even though like I think a lot of the things obviously were farces, like buying cheeseburgers for people and Connor sending his mom to Purdue, regardless of the like absurdity of turning those things into giant scandals. I think that it's great to at least see that like, okay, this is a staff we have to take serious, with a roster we have to take serious. And ultimately, Michigan's right on par with Oregon, Indiana, and Ohio State ahead of Indiana, but like the coaching there, the development there has been phenomenal, but on par with Oregon and Ohio State in terms of talent. So I guess then the question becomes, can Kyle Whittingham develop it? Because if he's turning 3 stars into 4 stars at Utah, let's see if he can turn 4 stars into 5 stars at Michigan. And if he can do that, then like, going to be tough to beat. All right. That's going to do it for us today. I had listed myself as doubtful and then questionable. And yet here we are playing through the pain with minimal coughs, and we managed. So thanks for sticking with me. For those who are in the comments commenting on my undershirt, listen, relax. I've just cobbled together anything I can to just make it. That's where we're at. And now I'm going to go back to enjoying my plague on the comfort of my couch. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.